My friends, the Cayman Islands is now in full election mode. I want to congratulate all the candidates that have put themselves forward to serve our country. Public service is still a noble cause, and we should always encourage people to serve. I encourage all candidates to stick to focusing on the policies and not the personalities. We're here to serve the people and not ourselves. To you, the voters, you are the boss. We're applying for the position to be your representative, to advocate for the things that are important to you. The campaign process is also the interview process. And just as though you would hire based on performance, qualification, and experience, I encourage you all to look at the candidates, interview them, and vote for who best can do the job. As I said in my last video, we're applying for a job to manage a country with a population of around 70,000 with a GDP of around $5 billion. This is a big responsibility. Elections have consequences. It allows those that form the majority to pursue the policies that they want. Today, I want to propose a policy for you to consider, and I hope that you will support it, as well as the candidates that are supporting this and other policies that I have proposed thus far. I also want to say, similar to my last video, where I spoke about the dependency ratio, this issue is going to be an uncomfortable one as it touches on the issue of development. Many of us have either heard or asked the question, who are we developing for? Who are we building for? And while that question needs to be answered, I believe that before we can answer that question, there is one question that we need to ask first. I must warn you that this question may be uncomfortable to some, but nonetheless, it needs to be asked if we are really serious about building a better Cayman and a stronger Cayman for everyone that calls the Cayman Islands home. My friends, the question that we need to ask first is this: who is doing the development? Who is doing the building? And if we look deep within ourselves, we know the answer. My friends, again, I remind you, elections have consequences. It allows those that are elected in the majority that forms the government to pursue policies that they believe will make the lives of all Caymanians better. There's one policy and one initiative that I believe the next government must pursue, and I'm asking you to support the policy where all Caymanians will pay 0% stamp duty on the first 3 properties they purchase, regardless of value. In addition to the 0% stamp duty on the first 3 purchases of property, we will also have to create a bond market to raise money so that Caymanians will have access to capital and make investments locally. My friends, this is important if we are really serious about making the Cayman Islands better and stronger. To give credit where credit is due, this is one of the things that my friend, the late Bo Miller, advocated for, and he believed that more of our pension money should be invested here at home in the Cayman Islands. I believe that it is time that this initiative be pursued, implemented, and made available to all Caymanians. The natural question is, why are these 2 things important? Firstly, there are 2 general barriers to investing in a home, a building, or a real estate project: finding the stamp duty, finding the deposit. The 0% stamp duty on the first 3 properties purchased will take care of the first barrier, as it gives our people the flexibility to decide on what they want to invest. About 3 weeks ago, I met with a group of young people that wanted to pool their resources together and purchase a large piece of property to do a development together. I was moved by their ambition, but realized 2 things. Firstly, the property they want to purchase was outside their combined allowances as first-time Caymanian buyers based on the current policy. And secondly, while their combined job letters would allow for them to service the loan, they are unable to come up with the deposit needed. Their meeting with me was to seek my help in finding an investor that would help them with their project. My friends, that meeting left me unsettled. Why should a group of our young, ambitious people start out this way and be at the mercy of some investor who may probably take advantage of them? Why shouldn't their investor be we, the people? They have no other country to run to. They can't take the property and carry it elsewhere. And if we are to be honest with ourselves, We have sat back and allowed our young people to be marginalized, so much so that many of them are disconnected and disinterested, and who can blame them? We need to lead by example, as more is caught than taught. My friends, we have allowed past political leaders in this country to take from our young people things that we had when we were younger. There was a time when there was free healthcare for our children. There was a time when banks would give a mortgage with a 5% deposit. There was a time when we had the Caymanian Protection Board to ensure that we were given first priority for jobs that we were qualified for. And bit by bit, those things were amended until they are watered down to nothing. My friends, this needs to stop. And the people responsible for eroding the Caymanian dream and opportunities for Caymanians should be removed from deciding policies in our country. Again, my friends, elections have consequences. It is important for us to decide our own destiny. The banks are limited in what they can do with people's deposit. The money in the banks does not belong to the bankers. It belongs to their customers. Think about this for a minute. You go into a bank and you want a loan for 20 years. No customer of the bank has a fixed deposit for 20 years. So in essence, you're asking the bank to take a very long-term risk with their customers' money. That risk is why they ask for certain things like a 20% deposit, because they figure if you stop paying the loan, that they can sell the property for 80% of the value. Here is something that most people don't know. Almost 50% of residential mortgages issued in the United States are guaranteed by the US government through entities like Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. 40 years ago, that was not the case, where only 7% were guaranteed by the US government. My friends, let's be honest. Housing is a basic need. Shelter is a basic need. Long before banks were created, people needed shelter. Why then do we believe that housing for our people, shelter for our people, should be shouldered by the banks? We as a people have a responsibility to make sure that Caymanians have a home. We as a people have the responsibility of making sure that the tools are in place to facilitate our people owning property. And this is why we need to restructure our economic model to serve our people. Let's take a look at our pensions and see how much of those funds should be invested locally. Let's start looking at issuing 20-year bonds and 30-year bonds so that our people will have access to capital, so that they can invest in real estate, so that they can invest in businesses, so that they can invest in their future. Then, and only then, we can answer the questions: who is doing the developing? Who is doing the building? God bless.